August, I'm sorry, agenda. If you're looking at your agenda, may look a little different. We've moved the Visitors and Citizens Forum to the beginning of our meetings, to the workshop. This will, I believe, will allow more people to take an opportunity, to have the opportunity to speak before the City Council. It had been during our 7 o'clock hour, which, as our meetings tend to go, sometimes long, and I believe most people were less likely to stay until late at night like that. So we're hoping that this will provide more of an opportunity for our citizens to come and speak before the council. Mr. Watkins?
How about that? Good. Mayor, I, on the other hand, believe after looking at the ordinance says that the presentation by citizens, let's see, up here someplace it says it'll be held during a meeting, and the workshop isn't a meeting, isn't a part of the meeting. For a long time it was in the other room in there. I think that there's several people. Don't get me wrong, I don't like people getting up and grabbing at me any more than you do, but there's a cure for that as well. But the presentation by the citizens with prior notification is 6 minutes, and presentations by citizens without prior notification should be 3 minutes. I can't imagine why a person would want to talk. The 3-minute thing to me has always been for something that you may hear during the council meeting that you want to discuss or make a comment on. And if you have the meeting after you've already discussed that. So I'd really like to move it up back kind of where it was, except that also this time there's something new on the agenda that I think will be helpful, and that's city staff reports. So if we move the visitors and citizens up right after 10 and before city staff reports, it will allow staff, if in case there's something that they want to address that has been said during the visitors and citizens. Let's see. That being said, I'm gonna go back to that ought to make, and there's a lot of people can't be here at 6 o'clock, and some of them are worse than others about attacking us, which I don't like, but like I say, there's a cure for that. It says speakers must address their comments to the presiding officer rather than individual council members or staff. Also, there be no insults, derogatory remarks against any individual, and conduct themselves as decorous and civil manner. We have had several people in the past few months that have gotten up there and just run over one or all of us, and that's not allowed. That's you read something about that, and then we just go ahead and let them get up here, and they don't get to do that. But I think that because of the way it's set up, and because of the fact that there's any number of people that can't be here at 6 o'clock, and because of the fact that they're not going to have any opportunity to listen and make some kind of comments, I'd like to move that the visitors and citizens be placed between item 10 and city staff reports.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. This is posted for this council meeting at the beginning of our at the beginning of our work session. This was a decision of mine after consultation with our legal counsel, who assured me I have the legal authority to make that decision as the presiding officer. I believe that, contrary to what Councilmember Watkins had said, I've had several people who, after the meeting, asked me if there's any way we can move this closer to the beginning of our meetings, because, as he said, some people can't be here. It was a burden on them to stay that late. late into the evening when they just had a few comments to make. So they ended up having to stay until 10 o'clock at night, for an example, just to make the comments that they had. I think that at the beginning this will be an adjustment, but I think those who want to speak before this council, they'll prioritize their time and they'll be here at that time. With something Councilmember Watkins said also, on our public meetings, all meetings are public, but on our what's the word I'm looking for? Public hearings, all citizens have an opportunity to come up before the council and speak on that subject. And if for whatever reason they're unable to come at that time, well, they have the next council meeting when they can come and speak before the Visitors and Citizens Forum. I believe that this time gives the greatest amount of opportunity for our citizens to come and speak for us. Again, I go back to the number of people that I've had contact me and ask if there's any way we can move it closer to the beginning of our meeting as opposed to the end of our meeting. Councilmember Grove, did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I'm kind of along lines with Councilman Watkins. You know, I don't think today's the day that we should do it because this is the first that we've heard of it, and my understanding is the citizens probably don't know that would want to speak on today's council meeting.
Well, we can make an exception for this one meeting.
Okay.
Going forward, I think we should have it consistent.
Yeah, going forward. Yeah, going forward, that's fine. I'm just concerned that today that people will show up and expecting, and then they say, "Well, we already had that at the workshop."
Absolutely. If someone comes in at 7 o'clock during the 7 o'clock hour, and they want to speak, I'm sure that after consulting with our legal counsel, we can make arrangements for that.
Okay.
But,
as long as people get to speak today.
And I feel that since being mayor, I've been very accommodating for anyone who wants to speak, whether I agree with them or not. Really doesn't matter, but I think I've been very accommodating with anyone who comes up to speak, during that time.
Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Strong.
Mayor and Council, I think both way some pro and con in there. By the way, if you move this one to the first of the meeting, I think it's okay too. Why? Because I met several citizens sitting here until 10 o'clock, and they believe we intentionally do it on purpose, try to punish them. They say, yeah, city want to punish me, stay until late like this. I don't say the whole, the people attend the meeting. Just few people make that comment, and they say, well, I don't know. This system has been set up for a long time, But I think both way, either one. Why don't we just try to move in at the work session for a while, see how it works, And most people at 6 o'clock, I think they have free time, and doesn't matter. Somebody already fill out a form, want to talk. That means they already have something in their mind what they want to talking about. That's just my comment.
Thank you, Dr. Strong. Councilmember Watkins, your light is still on. Did you have something else you wanted to say?
Yes, I found what I was going to read and ask our legal department here what to say. This starts out, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Haltom City, Texas, establishing a policy governing presentations by citizens during council meetings, establishing a time allowances for presentations by citizens during council meetings, providing for the enforcement of the policy, providing that this ordinance shall be cumulative of all ordinances, providing a severability clause, and providing for an effective date. I still contend that the work session is actually not during a council meeting. It is during a work session. And this is a real difficult subject for me because, like I say, I've seen times a few years ago that I'd have probably been off here and hitting somebody in the mouth for the things they get up here and say. I've mellowed, but I believe that the people ought to discuss, particularly the 3-minute thing really gets my attention, is that why have a 3-minute, why somebody, all of a sudden, they're 2 minutes before they haven't turned in something, all of a sudden something's gonna come to them? No, that something comes to them after they've gotten up and heard all the ordinances. And specifically, so that Rex, as it turns out, whoever gives the presentation, and I'm not doubting your authority to do that. I'm also believe that in the past, if a council member wanted some agenda item moved from one place to another, despite how it is written, posted, that we've been allowed to move the item to a different spot. Therefore, I'm only one, but I'm thinking that we ought to have it in between number 10 and Mr. Assistant City Manager Phelps.
Thank you, sir. Well, I think it's just semantics, whether it be I think it's a meeting of the council, so therefore I view it as a council meeting.
Some background on this. The mayor did ask me whether or not he had the authority to move the visitors and citizens forum on the agenda. And in answering his question, I pulled the ordinance that the city council adopted in 1997. The visitors and citizens forum is something that this council, the prior council, has adopted as being a permissive agenda item on every meeting. And in that ordinance, the city council determined that it was good to allow citizens to have the opportunity to speak on matters that were not posted on the agenda if they had matters of public business that they wanted to bring to your attention. As a reminder, everybody, the Open Meetings Act allows citizens to come here and watch and learn what you're doing, what the government is doing. It does not allow them to speak at the meetings or participate in the meetings unless there's a public hearing that's specifically provided by ordinance or statute. In the Visitor Citizens Forum is for items that aren't on the agenda, but that citizens believe need to be brought to your attention. And you've heard me comment in the past about the fact that when someone brings something up that's not posted under the Visitors and Citizens Forum, that we cannot respond to them except with factual information or a recitation of our city policy on the matter, because the Open Meetings Act requires specific posting. But we've been following that 1997 ordinance for years, and it does say that the council realizes that citizens have a right to address matters with their elected officials during council meetings. And it's my opinion that the work session is a part of the council meeting. It is required to be posted under the Open Meetings Act. It is on the agenda. It's a part of your normal posted agenda. And you have a right to take action on certain things related to the work session, or you have the right to do presentations, or the right to allow the Visitors and Citizens Forum during that period of time if you want. Again, the Visitor Citizens Forum is not allowed by law. It's something that the council has decided to allow its citizens to participate in, and you can put reasonable guidelines on how those Visitor Citizens Forums take place. And to answer your question then at the very end, Bob, I do think the work session is a part of the city council meeting, but again, ultimately the city council adopted an ordinance setting forth a policy for visitors and citizens forums, and if the council wants to do something specific in that regard, you certainly have the right to do that. You can determine where you want those to be held if that's your desire.
This is kind of agreeing what something I forgot to say a while ago is that with the people that decide they want to get out and talk tacky to us, it says that if the speaker fails to heed the presiding officer's warning, the sergeant at arms will escort the speaker from the meeting room. In case the presiding officer shall fail to act, any member of the council may move to require enforcement of the rules, and the affirmative vote of 2/3 of the council shall require enforcement of the sergeant at arms. So I've been sitting here once or twice when Dr. Trong and once or twice when you was here, and they attack you and or Dr. Trong. And I will take it upon myself, if nobody else does, to tell them that they're not supposed to do that. I mean, if I was you, I would say that might be hard to say, quit talking about me. But it's not gonna be hard for me to tell them to quit talking about you. I'll talk about you, I don't need their help. But I still wanna move it, and that's my.
Thank you, Councilmember Watkins. So our first speaker is Chris Anderson. Welcome, sir. If you would just state your name for the record.
It's Chris Anderson. Good evening, Mayor, Council, citizens. As I stated, my name is Chris Anderson. I'm the president of the International Association of Firefighters here in Haltom City. I represent the 39 firefighters from this great department. I'm here tonight to give our first and only response to Mr. Fowler's repeated attempts to create doubt about the integrity and professionalism of our great department and its administration. 2 years ago, the spirit of our department was at an all-time low, and we struggled to preserve morale due to the actions of a few members. These members created a toxic environment by undermining administration, bullying and browbeating fellow firefighters, and breeding distrust within our team. When the city manager came in, he brought his new leadership philosophy to our city. It gave us hope and direction. The philosophy helped us decide to stand up to this type of behavior, which unfortunately came from within and from external sources. Since our association's PAC campaigned against Mr. Fowler last May, which resulted in him losing his election, he seems committed to retaliate against our department, focusing on one member in particular. Mr. Fowler continues to bring up an incident that has been investigated by the police department and has been proven false. He also uses the Civil Service Commission's reversal of an indefinite suspension to insinuate a serious problem with our leadership and management in the FD and in the city. This is not the case at all. We strongly support our fire administration and our city manager. We appreciate the tough decisions they have to make, and for the first time in a long time, we're proud of the direction our department's headed. What this comes down to is that when toxic people lose control over you, they try to control how others see you. Mr. Fowler and his one supporter from the fire department hate being called on their negative behavior. They hate that we're not afraid to stand up to them and to say that their words and their actions are wrong. They are so upset they cannot influence us. They want to influence how you and the citizens see us. It's not going to work. Our citizens know us. They know that when they call us on their worst day, that we're going to respond quickly, that we're going to be professional, that we're going to be courteous, and that we're going to work hard for them, and we're going to do everything we can to help them through whatever adversities they face. Any of the families that we have cried with, prayed for, bled over, or laughed with know who we are and what we're about. And if you're a citizen who hasn't had to call us yet, let me assure you that we will take care of you like family. No matter your age, race, religion, sexual preference, or political affiliation. We appreciate that you, the council, voted not to do this external investigation into baseless accusations that were unfounded. We believe the vast majority of citizens want you to continue tackling legitimate issues facing our city. Thank you for your time tonight. We appreciate your service to this city and its employees.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Again, this is the Visitors and Citizens Forum. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak this evening? Yes, sir. We've never seen him before, have we? No.
Good evening. I apologize. I wasn't aware that this time had moved up front. Usually it's at the back when I was on the council.
This is the first meeting.
Yeah. Well, I was a little late. I thought I was early.
You're in line. If you don't mind, just I know who you are, but if you don't mind, just stating your name.
My name is Bill Lanford. I'm 2901 Haltom Road. Actually, just as a change of pace, I wanted to ask for the council's support in the upcoming BISD bond election. Voting is now underway, and this is a wonderful opportunity for Haltom City to get a couple of schools, a couple of new schools in the process. Importantly for me, because I used to go up there, is the Haltom Middle School being replaced. And that thing, it's almost as old as I am, and it's worn out. It really is. We had the pleasure of going visiting there not long ago. But it's a wonderful opportunity for the city of Haltom City to get a brand spanking new school right here close to the city hall. And the other interest for Haltom City is what used to be called South Bardville Major Cheney Elementary would also in the bond would be replaced and actually moved across the Fossil Creek over behind those little apartments that are across the creek but still part of Haltom City. Just as FYI, anybody that doesn't know that the school district has already promised that they will build a bridge over Fossil Creek so that those children who are used to walking to South Birdville will have a way to walk over there to the new school. Be a little further walk, but it'll be exciting. And I think this is just a wonderful opportunity again, and I appreciate the support of the council and the votes of the citizens, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lanford. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Welcome again. I know who you are, but if you don't mind just stating.
I'm webmaster. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I didn't know if Mr. Camacho had it on his list or not, but the American Legion is going to put their Veterans Day presentation on down at the Veterans Memorial. And speaking of Mr. Chris Anderson, I've been talking to him, and the fire department's going to furnish their pipe and drum corps, and we're going to have a bugler. And I know it's 11 o'clock on Sunday, but it is November the 11th, Armistice Day and time. And some of you scared of skipping church that day. The devil ain't going to get you just missing one day. So come on out.
Thank you, Mr. LeMaster. Is there anyone else? You want to go down there or you want to speak up here?
I'm going to speak right here. All right. I want to remind you of an oversight that I did have written down here, and it was brought back to my mind because Mr. Lanford gave his address, and we had decided a year or so ago, but we keep forgetting it. I do too, particularly the females in the audience. But a person should get up and say Bob Watkins, Haltom City, not Bob Watkins with my address, because that's more public information than you might need out there.
Right. I never asked for anyone's address.
I know, but
because,
they particularly the ones that's gotten up there like Bill, and
yeah.
so it might be good to kind of remind them on the front that to say your name and city like
Yeah.
that.
That's a very good point. Point of clarification. Thank you for that. Is there anyone else? Okay, seeing none, moving right along to discuss crime-free single-family rental ordinance. Now, this is something that Councilmember Walter Groh has to be placed on here. And Mr. Groh, would you like to introduce this?
Yes, sir. I guess a couple council meetings ago, I was out of town. Well, several events had occurred. We had the road rage murder over on Hunter and Roxy, and one of the properties that were involved apparently is a rental property. And then we had a rental property owner come up with some concerns about water meters being damaged by his tenants. And so I said, okay, maybe we need to institute the crime-free program that we have with the multifamilies, and so that's the genesis of having this discussion about it. Now, in researching, besides the crime-free, there are rental ordinances out there by every city around us, except but Haltom City, that have where rental property have to be registered, and then they have to be inspected. So it's kind of like a certificate of occupancy for those properties. And looking at it, that kind of makes sense because these are, in reality, commercial operations. You know, they're renting these properties for a profit, so that's commerce, and we should have them maintained and up to date and safe. And if the tenants have an issue, these ordinances have mechanisms to help resolve some of these issues. So that's what that's why I brought it up to the workshop, and then hopefully we'll have an ordinance out of this.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions from the council regarding this? Mr. City Manager, now, you've seen the one that was, I'd submitted, this is one from Saginaw. Did you have a chance to look at that? And if so, do you have any comments on that? I know that you were working on a crime-free type ordinance. You want to speak on that?
Sure, yes, Mayor. I also asked Chief Phillips to be here and Officer Perkins. If you don't know, Officer Perkins has been running our crime-free multi-family program since its inception, and she's done an absolutely incredible job. So I wanted her and Chief Phillips to be able to talk to the crime-free aspect of it. Okay. The reason that I brought up crime-free when Mr. Grove first approached me about it was his concerns kind of centered around crime on rental property. And so, you know, the crime-free program's been extremely successful in our city in its use in multifamily. So I didn't know if the council wanted to ask Chief Phillips or Officer Perkins how it works or what the goal of the rental ordinance would be. I did see the Saginaw ordinance, and it's not a crime-free ordinance, but it's more like what Mr. Grove was talking about with inspections and that type of thing, whereas crime-free, of course, is the target is to reduce crime in rental properties. So I don't know if they're available.
I would like to hear about the programs.
Yeah.
So, since they're here.
Brandy loves to publicly speak, so.
One second, Chief, if you don't mind. I'm going to get to Dr. Trong real quickly. I think you may have had a question, if you don't mind, sir.
Ms. Land, I know, I think talking about this subject is good because one of the reason why we should regulate the rental property because some family, they have like a bunch of people living there. Congestion, that one make, you know, not safety for society, you know, when so many people living together in the same household and on way create some problem because, I mean, food, time, everything. But by the way, I think this is a big subject, and I would like to see if we can have a special workshop and discuss because it's not simple like, I mean, just one meeting like this, we can solve the problem or we can have all the questions, you know, that's my suggestion, man.
The way I look at it is apparently this problem's already been solved in 3 of the surrounding cities, including, well, 4, Fort Worth, Richland Hills, Watauga, North Richland Hills have enacted ordinances for rental property registration and inspection. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We could just look at what everybody else has and adopt, you know, what's good and bad about it. I got a call from one of our council members saying that, you know, this has been brought up before and they had 200 plus people against it. Well, you know, and I had another individual tell me I need to get a shovel. And so apparently there's going to be a lot of pushback on this, but you know, I didn't get here to win any popularity contests, and so I just doing what I think is right for the citizens of the city. I've done a lot of analysis on the properties, and we have 24% of our properties are rentals. So we have 11,573 total houses, 2,800 are rentals. North Richland Hills has 13% of their properties as rentals, and they have a rental property ordinance. Richland Hills has 21% property that are rental, and Watauga has 24%, or 24.7, so it's 25% other property. When I got involved with this, I've always heard the magical 40% other rental. That might be nationwide, but from what I can tell from the TAD records that I pulled down this last weekend, it's about 24%. And there's some anomalies. I haven't, but 24% sounds about right, as opposed to the 40. So, looking at it, at the some of them have about $75 is the rental fee. That would be $210 or $210,000 of revenue generated from the property that should pay for at least 2 inspectors to administer this program. And so I think it would be beneficial. Hopefully you'll raise the standards of the properties around here and make Haltom a better place. So, Chief, if you want to talk about the crime-free, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and you can go ahead and talk. I'm just going to add some general comments, but I'd like to hear what you have to say.
I'd like to hear what you had to say first.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
First of all, and everybody's been to the CCPD meeting or any of those have heard that I was cautious about this, to be nice. I thought it was some kind of smoke and mirror witchcraft thing that they were trying to push on. I've been here since '99. The officers come here along with firefighters. I mean, this city used to be a real active city with crime. I mean, they come here because it was fun. I mean, I took a pay cut to come here from Euless as a jailer to here as a police officer because Haltom City was fun. I mean, we got into police work to do police work. They started this crime-free multi-housing. It's become boring to work here. We don't have the crime in the apartment complexes that we used to. Apartment complexes are voluntarily working with us. There's not really an ordinance. There's no teeth behind what we do. It's they want to be involved. They want to better the city. And it's because of Officer Perkins and ex-former city manager Lane. It's been extremely, sorry, Chief, not city manager.
I said former. What happened?
That's the 7 o'clock meeting.
I got to tell you about that. Yeah.
Before we get to 7, then I got business with you.
We'll talk later.
Just kidding.
But it's been extremely effective. The officers have embraced it. They consistently provide her with information with problem locations, and they address those very quickly. One thing I want to address is it's not a one-size-fit-all. We'll have to reinvent the wheel. Crime Free has given us a foundation to build on, but and Officer Perkins will go into this a little bit more, it's moldable, and we got to figure out and prioritize what we need as a city and what we need as property owners to better the city. So, because what Richland Hills has or North Richland has might not be effective here. We got to figure out what we need here to better it, and that's what we have to do. And so we've got to adapt and understand. So a meeting would have to occur where citizens have involvement in this, so we understand what their process is and what the needs are, because we get consistent complaints about code enforcement violations. And when they ask, they're like, what do y'all do about these rental homes? And there's nothing we can do. I can't get a hold of the owner and all that. So involvement with those people is going to go a long way with helping to develop this for long term. The more specific, let Officer Perkins do all that, because she's taking complete ownership with that and has taken the football and ran with it. So much that other departments are calling us to have her come and help them develop theirs, like Richland Hills. So she's helped them get theirs ball rolling right now. But go ahead.
So basically, Crime Free is a 3-phase program for apartment complexes. The first phase, they would come to training, and that's when they would get like their lease addendum. They would learn about liabilities on the property, and we build a partnership, exchange emails, and I work hand in hand with them. So if they have a problem at their property, they come to me, and then I'll help facilitate other things with other officers if we have issues. The second phase is called CEPTED. It's the crime prevention through environmental design. And that is where we go through and we work with the apartments or the rental properties to, fix the lighting, fix the signs, or the locks on the doors. And the third phase is not for rental properties like houses, but for apartment complexes. And that's where we would just go out and do like a little safety social with everybody. So what we've seen is when we first started this program, we were running people out of the apartments into the rental homes. And then I had rental home people coming to me and saying, hey, help me. And then I would help them. And then they wouldn't come back after we kind of helped them get all their situations. And it was very time consuming. And since there's no ordinance there, we were not able to, they just come and then they would leave. The other problem is if we had issues like tenants or people living around rental homes that had issues, we couldn't address it or help them because it would take me 2 or 3 weeks to find the owner of properties. I'd have to go to the TAD or I'd have to look at the water department, and they may or may not have information that we needed to get a hold of the owners. So basically, crime is not so much code driven as it is to reduce the criminal activity and then to improve the properties. But like Cody said, that you can mold it to what you want. So picking something in Saginaw is not going to fit the needs of what we have in our city. And that's what's great about this. So you can put a lot of your input in of what you want the program to be.
Well, I wasn't looking at getting things from Saginaw and Richmond. They already have things, and we could pick and choose. And then based on the discussions that we have with our citizens, implement an ordinance that would be tailored for Haltom City. All I was just saying is, you don't have to fully reinvent the wheel.
Right, and the crime-free, that's the good thing about crime-free is because everybody has a basis with crime-free. They all have the lease addendum, and they all do certain things with it. And then you can add and pick and choose what you need for your city. So it's kind of like what you're saying. It's just we have that foundation that we start with.
Thank you, Councilmember Grove, for that question. Councilmember Watkins, did you have a question or a comment? Okay. Okay. Do you have more for your in your presentation?
Is there anything else you want me to?
No, I think you covered it. And one of the things too, I looked at a couple of crime-free ordinances that other cities have, and the great thing about crime-free is you can make it voluntary, you can make it mandatory, or you can do like a combination of voluntary, mandatory, but based on what individuals you're having issues with. So more than the inspections, it's more about Brandy. I think the biggest success we had was changing the leases, and the other thing to speak to Dr. Trong's issue too is you have people. We had the same issue in the apartment complex. We found out is you'd have somebody sign the lease, and they weren't living there. They were signing the lease because the other individual couldn't get an apartment. And the next thing you know, we had 5 or 6 people living in an apartment that shouldn't have been in there. So that was another way we kind of got rid of those people. And Brandy's right. We did kind of push. She did such a good job getting them out of the apartment complexes that they showed up in the rental houses. And so I don't know if you want to do a combination of crime-free and what the other cities are doing as far as getting code and inspections involved. But like she said, and like the chief said, the great thing about it is we can kind of craft the ordinance like you guys want it to be.
Yeah, we could look at all the options, all the tools that we have available to us.
Yep.
Texas, Chapter 92 of the Texas Code allows us to craft ordinances to regulate rental properties.
Yep. Brandy, was there something else you wanted to add, or you just... Also, just for anybody out there, there's a really good synopsis on our website of the crime-free multi-family program and how successful it's been since its inception. I think at one point, the last time we checked the stats, I think Part 1's are down 28% in the apartment communities. I think it was pretty close to 30% that had reduced it. So it does work.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Watkins, did you have make your comments?
Several. I don't own any rental properties, so that's not that's not where I'm coming from. I was at all of the planning and zoning meetings when the previous rental ordinance was adopted. And one of the most intriguing thing I found, and I wish I could remember, it was Garland or somebody over there by Dallas or that we took their ordinance. I say we, I wasn't on the council or anything. They took the ordinance of this city that was in court as we spoke and used it. And that generated the 200 people, if nothing else. And I'm not too, the place would barely hold that, but I think there were people in the hall. Some of the things, and I didn't even read the Saginaw one because I'm with y'all. It needs addressing. I spent, well, let's take yesterday morning before church, because I felt like that was a good opportunity to find out. I went by one of the houses that I've gotten drawn complaints on, and there were like I can't remember. I've been by there several times. One time there was 9 cars and trucks, and I believe it was 10 or 11 yesterday morning, and this is at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning. And the neighbors in that particular area, like neighbors in other areas, have told me that they have all these people staying at these different houses, and this particular one, they hadn't seen a female or children or anything else. It was all. I felt like they were probably also working out of this house. But anyway, so something should be done about that. But I thought some of that was going to be handled when we did the something similar to this. We discussed the fact of too many people living in one house and everything a year or so ago, didn't we? Well, anyway, I haven't got anything. I couldn't have anything against the Saginaw one because I haven't read it. But I'm with you on the idea of trying to put everything together. There were some things in the one that the city adopted or were trying to adopt, like you had something hanging on your wall there, like you do in a hotel, saying that you're in a rental unit, and I didn't think that was real nice. Some people might not want to have something on the wall saying they're living in a rental properties. There was different ordinances, different parts of the ordinance that said if you had frayed carpet, or the temperature had to be to where it couldn't be below a certain amount and couldn't be above a certain amount. So there was a whole lot of verbiage in there that made it hard on the people and the renters and the people doing the renting. So that it needs to be a lot of work, and I suppose doesn't the planning and zoning have to look at this again? Isn't that what you do with something like this? That's what happened the last time.
Are you talking about the ordinance? Well, it depends on the council approves the ordinance, so it would depend on that. But just to shortly address your point about, isn't that what code enforcement is supposed to be doing? The great thing about the crime-free program is it puts the responsibility on the person that should be responsible, and that's the property owner.
I'm all for all that.
We have 5 code enforcement officers, and there's no way they can police all the rental properties. So it's a partnership, but one of the great things about it is it makes property management responsible for what's going on in their properties. Because just like Brandy said, what we found out when she started digging into these rental properties is you got some of them that live in California, Japan. They don't care. Yeah. They don't care if there's 9 cars in front of that house. So what this does is it puts the responsibility on them as well. The other pro for the landlord or the property owner is that, and I think it's probably still this way because we still have the same JP, but it really, really, really improves the eviction process on the side of the landlord and property owner because they have the crime-free program in place. That was one of the first things we did was we contacted JP, and he was like, yeah, I'm all about that. If you got a crime-free program going on and you have an eviction, it's a lot easier to work with them. So it truly is a partnership. Brandy partners, and we've never had to make the multifamily program, we've never had to make that mandatory, because the property owners have taken responsibility and partnered with her and the police department. It's like Cody said, that was one of the tough things getting it started is I had officers that are like, this ain't gonna work. Apology accepted, by the way. But that's the true part that makes them responsible because I've told y'all before I'm not a fan of making an ordinance that we can't enforce, but this way instead of having 5 police officers or code enforcement officers, we've got 76 police officers and 5 code enforcement officers to make the ordinance work.
That would be important. I agree with all that. That would be important, and one of the things I forgot to say that when a pencil was put to it, it would be impossible to, with the amount, at the time, I think we had 3 code enforcement officers. It was impossible. So you're gonna be charging everybody, the people that had rental property, owned rental properties, you're gonna be charging them. And you actually didn't have the personnel to even go by and inspect them. So it was kind of a loosey-goosey thing, but I hadn't given any thought, I guess, to the fact that you would spread if you got 100 people out there, it's gonna be a whole lot better than that 3. But that was a problem. There wasn't any teeth in it. And some of it didn't need any teeth in it because it was stupid ideas to start with. But the other end of it is that there was things that should have been addressed. And once again, I've gone by and seen several in the last month or so. So I don't know whether it's increasing or everybody in the world's got my Facebook page or what, but I mean, I'm getting an awful lot of conversation about more than 5 or 6 people, obviously not kin to each other, living in places. And the thing you can't do anything. The hard thing is that also almost every time you look, it's a bunch of people partying too, but because it's of what's there. Yeah, I haven't got anything against the idea of making it more crime-free and reducing the number of people that are in a house just to be there. So.
Well, I'm not familiar with the ordinance that was proposed years ago.
Well, go to court and look. I mean, they lost it wherever.
I'm not looking to regulate anybody's air conditioning or anything. I'm just looking to ensure that the properties are well maintained and does not decrease the value of the neighbors that live there. And, you know, sitting on the EDC, we sold property, and one of the individuals that was looking to buy the 43 acres across from the library was multifamily. And as the EDC members, one of the key things that we talked about is single family ownership. And so that going in line with that thinking, you know, that's what this is one of the things about this rental property ordinance. I haven't looked at, you know, how many people actually live in the city that own the property or how many people are outside. That'll be one of the things I'll research. But, you know, one of the companies that they have 25 houses in this city and they don't live in this city. And so that's, you know, those are the things that people do that do not have a vested interest in living here other than extracting funds out of here. So that's why I brought it up. Thank you.
I agree with you. This is, you know, and Dr. Trong, you said this earlier, this is a health and safety issue. You know, I've been in houses where, for an example, the refrigerators, they're using an extension cord to plug the refrigerator in. Well, that's not safe. They have window units. Well, the glass is broken or they're hanging out of the window. I mean, that's not safe. And also, it's a poor quality of life. And those types of properties also bring down the neighborhood values, like Councilmember Gross said. So this is really, you know, a multi-pronged effect in what we need to take approach to this and we need to take. So I'm looking forward to future meetings on this. So, Chief, what direction do you need from us, from this council, in order to move forward with trying to enact some type of ordinance? Do we need to have more meetings, or?
We can start working on something and bring it to another work session. I think I have direction on where everybody wants to head with it. So, and at that point, if we come up with kind of like a model to show you guys, you can tweak it, help us tweak it or whatever, and get it to where exactly you want it. But I think we can do it in a future work session.
Okay. Well, with that being said, it is now, let's see, 10 minutes until 7. We'll oh, okay, I didn't see. Okay. Discuss security devices in City Hall. Who's going to be introducing that?
I don't know, Mayor. I can tell you that I have talked to IT about maybe rearranging some camera configurations that we currently have. We used to, when we had utility billing back there, we had cameras back there and kind of watching over that because that was a problem issue. But we can look into reconfiguring cameras, or if we have to get new ones, that might be something that we bring to you as a budget amendment if you're interested in doing that.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the council regarding that? Oh, well, did you have a question regarding something? Sure, absolutely.
Since I gave everybody a scare last meeting, just want to kind of give everybody an update. For those that were here last meeting or may have not heard, I'm okay, as you can see. All the tests didn't show anything. They still don't know what happened. They believe it was a seizure. I started having some problems basically the end of August, early September. They initially thought it was strokes, but the first part of September. But with what's been going on, they think it might have been a seizure, so they got me on some medication, trying to figure out what's going on. If the medication stops over the next month, I'm on this. If it stops it, then we'll start backtracking to find out what it stopped and why it stopped. So thank y'all for who prayed for me, but that's kind of where we're standing. So we're just kind of going from there. No, it is not stress. They did that as well, Bob. The stress is not a trigger.
Well, we're glad you're back, Brent. With that being said, we'll adjourn at, what time is it? 6:52. We'll be back here at 7 o'clock. Councilmember Watkins, if you would please make your way towards the dais. We'll begin our meeting here in just a moment. Okay, I want to welcome everyone to our October 22nd, 2018 City Council meeting. The time now is 7:05. The first item on the agenda is the invocation and pledge of allegiance. If you would please stand for Assistant City Manager.
All right, let's bow our heads. Lord, first we just want to thank you for being all that you are, all that you always will be. We thank you for your love, your mercy, your grace. We thank you for the great sacrifice, and we thank you for being an intercessor for us. We pray that we would remember, Lord, to act as you have given us the ultimate example as ultimate servant leader of how we're supposed to respond and interact with each other. We ask that you be with this governing body as they make decisions, and that they would make those decisions in a way that would be pleasing to you. We thank you for your love, your mercy, and your grace. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps. Moving right along to our announcements and events, our City Secretary, Art Camacho.
Thank you, Mayor. Announcements for October 22nd, 2018. Road closings due to the uncooperative weather. The status of Carson Street Bridge replacement project has not changed. Carson Street under State Highway 121 will remain closed for approximately 6 more weeks. Again, this is dependent on the weather. The frontage road U-turns under State Highway 121 will remain open this time period except when the contractor is working in the immediate area to connect the new bridge into the existing pavement. Motorists are asked to pay special attention to the construction signage as various traffic lanes may temporarily close for a day or two. Please continue to visit the city's website to obtain the latest information as weather may change or extend this time period. The city's website will indicate the latest information regarding these traffic zones. And remember to always slow down and use caution in these construction zones. Also, 5300 Fossil Creek Boulevard will be closed October 23rd to the 27th due to road construction. In community projects, everyone is invited to the Trunk or Treat on Thursday, October 25th from 4:30 to 8:30 at Shannon High School. You're also invited to Harvest Fest, which is a free carnival-like event on Wednesday, October 31st from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Christian Center of Fort Worth. The Haltom Recreation Center will hold its annual Haltom Halloween on Saturday, October 27th from 2 to 5 p.m. Bounce houses, obstacle courses, face painting, crafts, and more will keep the whole family entertained for Halloween fun. The costume contest for ages 2 to 10 begins at 3:30 p.m. Fall Gallery Night, hosted by Art in the City, will be at the Haltom City Public Library. This year's event will be on Friday, November 9th from 12 to 6 p.m. and Saturday, November 10th from 10:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. This is a free event and everyone is welcome to attend. Please join us on Sunday, November 11th at 11 a.m. at the Veterans Memorial for the Veterans Day ceremony to honor all of those that have served our country. The Haltom City Citizens Fire Academy Alumni Association will be hosting an all-you-can-eat pancake breakfast at Applebee's Restaurant at 6645 Northeast Loop 820 in Northwestern Hills on Saturday, November 10th from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. The tickets are $10 each and must be purchased in advance, and tickets may be purchased from any CFA member, Fire Administration, or Haltom City Public Library. For any questions, please contact Susan Norris at 817-637-6332 or at haltomcfaa@gmail.com. All proceeds benefit the Haltom City Fire Department. The Haltom Senior Center will be hosting the annual Halloween party on Wednesday, October 31st from 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. and will have games, door prizes, and a costume contest. Finger foods and snacks will be served. At the public library, the teen programs, family movie night, super science Saturdays, adult GED, ESL classes, and other library activities are all listed on the library's website for their dates and times. The pumpkin decorating contest deadline is Saturday, October 27th, and the pumpkin smash is on Thursday, November 1st at 5 p.m., so bring your pumpkins and enjoy some smashing good time. The Halloween will be Tuesday, October 30th at 6:30 p.m., featuring stories, puppet show, trick-or-treating, and please come in costume, and that includes parents too. On Thursday, November 1st, the Board and Commission banquet will be held at Diamond Oaks at 6 p.m. And that's our announcement. We do have, at this time, we're going to go ahead and take time to do a proclamation. It wasn't set for our presentation, but we have a proclamation that we're doing this evening with Assistant City Manager Rex Phelps.
Okay, is there a representative here from St. Luke United Methodist? You guys want to come up here, or whoever wants to come up? All right, this is a certificate of recognition to St. Luke United Methodist Church, 90th anniversary. September 2018 marked the 90th anniversary of St. Luke United Methodist Church, which was organized as the Birdville Methodist Church in September 1928 with 17 charter members. And the first church building was erected in 1930, and a second sanctuary was built on land that was purchased on Denton Highway in 1950, with the congregation voting to change its name to St. Luke Methodist Church, which led to a third sanctuary being built in 1964, with the membership growing to 1,200. And we give pause, honor, and praise this day for the deep and abiding commitment for those who in faith began this work, and for all those who have given so unselfishly during these many years to help the church grow and thrive and provide valuable human services where the need was great. And our entire community has benefited from the fine influence this church has exerted through the years, exemplified with several organizations such as the Backpack Mission at Major Cheney Elementary, the Northeast Emergency Distribution or NEED, the United Methodist Committee on Relief, weekly French worship services, and mission trips for Texas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. And now therefore, on behalf of our mayor, David Averett, the mayor of the city of Haltom City, Texas, and on behalf of the city council and all our citizens, do hereby wish to extend this certificate of recognition and also our congratulations and best wishes to Reverend Mel Beshara and the members of the congregation who will celebrate the occasion of 90 years of faith and fellowship. Thank you.
Mayor, Councilman, thank you very much. It is a great privilege to be the pastor of St. Luke. I've been there for 6 years, going to my 7th year. The church has done so many things to the community, continues to do, and we hope to continue to do it for 90 more years. We are engaged in so many different ministries with children in schools, in our church, and beyond the church. We have gone to missions beyond the borders to touch people's lives. We will continue to do so in the name of our God, in the name of the goodness of all humanity, no matter what race, what religion, what backgrounds, what language they speak, because we are the people who can give hope and extend our lives to be friends, brothers and sisters to all. Thank you very much for the privilege of having served this community. And Bob in here, Bob Watkins, councilman, he's a member, an active member, continually engaged in being in the church and active in the church and active in the community, and we thank him for that. He sits right in front of me, really about 3 feet from me, so if I mess up, he'll just grab my tie and say, "Sit down, Pastor." No, he doesn't do that, but I want to thank him for everything that he does.
Be sure and invite everybody below.
Yes. Mayor, I hope you have gotten our invitation, and Councilman, we invite everybody at 10:45 on November 11. I know we have another activity on November 11, but we're inviting all the policemen and the firemen to celebrate also that day that we call it's Veterans Day, and so we invite you as well, and the whole community. You're invited to come. We have dinner. We call it Thanksgiving dinner on November 11. It's on me. So if you don't have a ticket, it's on me. I'll pay for everyone. And so I hope you come at 10:45. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
The presentation by Perry Bonham, our fire chief, that has been pulled until a later date. If you're looking at the agenda, you may notice the visitors and citizens forum is now at the very beginning of our meeting as opposed to being towards the end. Going forward, that's where it will be located at, because I believe that that gives a wider audience opportunity to come and speak before this council, as opposed to waiting until the end of our meeting, which, as we all know, can sometimes run until late at night. But as a one-time courtesy this time, for anyone in the audience wishing to speak during the visitors and citizens forum, we'll open up this time now so that you can certainly come forward and speak for anything that you have that you're wanting to speak on. So with that being said, is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak during our visitors and citizens forum? Okay, seeing none. Moving right along to our reports, the monthly financial reports for September 2018. Ms. Fung.
Mayor and the City Council, it's a pleasure to present to you the September 2018 financial report. As you know that everything is performed beautifully for the year. To get that on, okay. It's not working. Okay, all right. Looking at the financial, you can see that revenue is 109%, which will receive about $78.1 million. We budgeted only 71.4. And then expenditure, we spent about 85%, which is about $73 million. We budgeted about 84.8. So our fund balance right now is at $42.7 million, as our budget was only about 26.2. But one thing that I would like to point out is that this is a preliminary financial. That is to say, we haven't included the year-end adjustment, and the numbers are not audited. The audited financial statements, financials will be presented to the council in February after our audit inspected the books. Okay, the largest fund for the city is general fund. You can see that we receive about 107% of the revenue, which is almost $30 million. And expenditure is almost $27 million, which is about 95%. So the general fund balance right now stood at about $9.9 million, and we predicted only 6.4. That is to say, we receive more revenue, we spend less money. But again, this is not the final number. We still have the year end to do, and also the auditor will inspect the book before we can report to you the final numbers. Okay, our property tax for the year, you can see that is look like what we predicted. And we receive about $9.3 million for the general fund, which is about 104%. And for the sales tax, again, you can see it looks very good. Almost every month is above the budget. And we received about $10.3 million altogether, which is about 112%. So it seems that sales tax is doing very well as well. Looking at the comparison of the 3 years, you can see that most of the months we are existing the previous year, except the November one, which is because last year we have an adjustment here. Okay, comparing to the other cities, you can see that this is from January to September, so it's a little bit different from the other one. The other one is from October to September. This is only January to September. For the month of September, we are about 8.48% above last year. And for the 9 months for the year, which almost about 10% above the last year. So we are doing very well in the sales tax. Okay, are there any questions for the monthly financials?
Thank you, Ms. Fung. Are there any questions or comments from the council for Ms. Fung? Seeing none, excellent presentation on that one. Moving right along, the quarterly investment report for 2018.
Okay.
Again, Ms. Fung.
This is the investment report. Is to tell the council how we invest our money and what kind of interest we receive and all the details. Okay, so at the end of September, you can see that we have about $50.4 or $5 million invested. And compared to the previous quarter, which is the end of June, which is $48 million, which is about $2 million more money to invest. And since the interest rate is increasing, the Federal Reserve increased, the interest rate continuously. You can see that we have unrealized gain about 394. Again, to remind you, this is unrealized. That is to say, it's just comparing the books. And only if we liquidate all our investment right away, then we have that loss. But if we do not liquidate it, we keep it until the maturity, there will be no loss at all. Okay, so right now we are investing at 332 days, which is called the weighted average maturity. So averagely, our investment is about 432 days. And compared to last quarter, which is 409, we have a policy that we can invest up to 2 years. So, and yield, which is 1.84%, compared to last quarter is 1.7. And then we compare our benchmark. We use the 6-month Treasury to compare our benchmark. We are shy from the benchmark, but we are still earning a lot of interest. And I calculated it and I add them together. Currently, we receive almost $600,000 interest in the investment. And if we keep this rate 1.84 with $50 million, we should get about $920,000 per year. So the investment is increased compared to previous years a lot. Okay, looking at what we invest, you can see that we have different types of securities here. The largest agencies, that is the Federal Home Loan Bank, Farmers Credit, and all those different things, which is backed up by the government, the federal government. We also have municipal security, about $3 million, and CDs, which is bank deposits, and it's about $7.6 million. We also invested in the state-sponsored investment pools, $5.5 million, and we have cash about 4.7. This make up the $50 million. Okay, looking at the maturity, you can see that we have money in the 1 to 30 days, 1 to 3 months, and then 3 to 6 year, 6 months, 3 to 6 months, and then 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years. So these make up our portfolio. You can see that when we invest money in the 3 years, 2 to 3 years, every quarter it will move up a little bit. So you can see that we kind of try to match our cash lead with the maturities in order to earn the best return. Okay, looking at the Treasury yield curve, you can see that comparing to the previous quarters, you can see the interest rate is increasing for every single category. So 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years. So the interest rate is increasing. I do not foresee it to increase so much more because this is almost, high because of the situation with the national debt and all those. Okay, looking about the economy, I am giving you the U.S. gross domestic product growth rate. You can see that the growth rate here is a little bit more than 4% here. So it's very good. And then looking at the consumer confidence, you can see that it's at about 138.4, and which is a high level. So that concludes the presentation here. Are there any questions?
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Grow, Councilmember Grow.
Ms. Fong, if you can go back where you had the one slide with the loss. Okay, that one.
Okay.
Have we had any losses? Because I know
No.
you're moving things from one, you had 2-3 year.
Yes.
So
we
we've
don't
never-
have any loss at all.
So we've never realized.
No,
any
we
losses.
never have, unless you liquidate it, you sell the
Yeah, but
portfolio.
aren't we? So if you go forward a couple slides, keep going. Okay, that one.
Okay.
See how you have 2 to 3 year, 1 to 2 year, and then we're in the days. So as items mature and they move down into the other column.
Right.
Are we getting any losses?
No, there is no loss.
No loss.
We wait until it matures,
Okay.
so there is no loss.
Okay. All right. I was just curious. Thank you, ma'am.
All right.
Thank you, Councilmember Grow. Are there any other questions or comments from the council for Ms. Fung? Seeing none? Excellent presentation.
thank you.
ma'am. Moving right along to our 2018 crime statistics for the third quarter. Chief Phillips, welcome, sir.
I made it past 7, so I'm doing something right. I'm gonna begin. You'll realize I'm a little scruffy today. I forgot to shave. It's kind of hard for me to be in uniform, but looking around the room, I think there's a few others that are kind of scruffy. With that being said, we're taking donations to donate for the No Shave November. All the donations that we receive are going to be hand delivered to Cook's Children's Hospital. So if you feel like you don't want to shave, that y'all can come and donate. Just come by the police department. You can see the administrative staff, and they'll be able to give you a little envelope. You can write your name down there and the amount you donated, and we can make sure we get it down there to you. So, be able to do that, sir? I'll make sure. Second, I'm going to move a little ahead on the next one so we can get our new officer out and get him working. About a year ago, we started looking to replace one of our canine officers that had retired due to age, which is about 10 years old. We had donations from the Citizens Police Academy Alumni Association, the North Texas Cigar Society from Wayne Thompson, to help us fund replacing that officer. We had a dog. She didn't work out, so we redid it again and went out and found Canine Harkos, which is Officer Parsons' new partner. He's a 18-year-old Belgian Malinois, and 18 months. Sorry. I was doing dog years on Parsons' age, and that's what it was. No, I mean you didn't hear that, right? So we're excited to have him. He's been through some extensive training, him and Officer Parsons. They've recently received all kinds of certifications for different agencies. He is a narcotic certified dog, handler protection, and tracking. So he does everything. You want to say anything? Will you say something?
Yes.
There you
go. This is Officer Harkos. He's very social. Like Chief said, he's an 18-month-old Belgian Malinois. Most folks think they're German Shepherds. They're not. They have they don't have the thick undercoat that German Shepherds have. Plus, also they're a little more compact. They don't get as big, but they have twice the muscle mass, and also a lot more bite pressure. Anywhere between 14 to 1500 psi on the bite pressure. We use them for pain compliance. He is dual purpose, everything from apprehension to narcotics. Very smart, sometimes too smart. Fooey. He's actually got a nickname of Houdini because the first week I had him in the nice kennel that he has, he's escaped twice just to follow me up to the house because he didn't want me to leave him. But yes, sir, anytime you see him out, just let me know, and I'll be more than happy to socialize him with you. He's very social, very, very social. Almost to a default that I have to unsocialize him a little bit out there on the streets because I don't want him just walking up to anybody. So he knows now. He waits for me to give him that acknowledgement before he goes and meets people. But I do believe my goal is just to make him the best asset for the city, not just on the policing side, but also the PR side. We've already, with him, since we've had him certified, we've attended, I believe, 5 different events demonstrations, National Night Out, several other things, just letting them meet him and greet him, explain to them what we do with the dogs, how much they help us, not only with the criminal apprehension side, but also with recovery of children, articles, evidence, several other things that we also do with them. He's my bud, but he is a tool. He basically, we use him for a lot of different things. Like I said, he's a very good dog. He almost got his first street bite this morning. Somebody was kind of being silly, but long story short, I'm glad to have him. Took a little while to get him here after the first one and everything else, but I think it was a good match. Really do, for our city and also for me as a handler. Any questions y'all have of me?
Any questions?
Just a funny comment. Is he still escaping his kennel?
No,
Okay.
because I've taken expanded metal on the exterior of it and put it over both windows and put basically cattle panels. I've cut them for the 2-foot gap that was in between because he can jump. I don't know how well you know the Civic Center down here, but they got the almost 10-foot walls with the gap in between the false ceiling. We had in training a decoy up there, and he almost bit him because they thought that he couldn't reach him from that distance. So basically, he wasn't wearing a muzzle and he wasn't wearing a suit. So the decoy was kind of being smart aleck, was slapping towards him and talking trash to him. He almost got him.
Wow.
I've got a video of it. The decoy's eyes got about that big. He's like, uh-oh.
Fantastic. Excellent. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Foos.
And there's an open invitation if any of y'all want to come train and be a chew toy for a day.
Well, we were thinking
can arrange
Councilmember
it.
Watkins, might be a perfect volunteer for that,
We'll start with the quarterly stats. I'm going to change something again next go round. I'm going to start putting the stats in since we do our reporting differently now with the state. Instead of doing it year to year, January through December, we're going to change it to where it matches the fiscal year and matches everything else. So it'll make it a little bit easier now. Well, remember what I was saying earlier, probably last year when we were doing the transition from the UCR reporting to the IBR reporting with the state, which is going to be a mandatory requirement by 2019, that it's going to raise some of our crime rate. It's not that it's actually raising the crime rate, it's just the way that it's reported, it shows an increase. Same amount of crimes happening, it just looks different on numbers. Overall, for calls for service, we were down 4% from quarter 17 to the quarter this year. And then year to date, we were up 1%. So it's pretty, I'm still in awe at how you can go over the years and you can see it's pretty smooth. Part 1 offenses for the quarters were up 7%. And then overall, this is the one that you'll see a difference. It's 35%. And this comes into, for an example of BMV, burglary of a vehicle. So previously, if a burglary of a vehicle occurs, that was the only offense that was reported. Now you have to report a burglary of offense, and if they broke the window, you have to count the broken window as a criminal mischief too. So you have the 2 offenses into one category now. Of course, we've had the one tragic homicide that was up on Hunter, and that's been the first one in numerous years. Our rapes are up 60% quarter to quarter, and then 26% year to date. For those, in the quarter, there were 5 adults, 6 sexual assaults of children, and then 4 indecent contacts, which were basically children as well. Out of that, there were 2 strangers, 6 were boyfriend, husband, 4 were other family members, and 3 were friends. There were 4 arrests, and then 4 were cleared exceptionally, which means they usually show that there's no criminal offense or there's other underlying factors. Out of the 2 strangers, one of them was the black male that has been on the media that pushed a female down up off Fossil Creek Circle and groped her. He was, I guess they think he's involved in numerous offenses throughout the different cities that surround us in Arlington. He still has not been identified. Another was an Uber driver that sexually assaulted a runaway. So that case is still open and being investigated right now. The robberies, quarter are up 233%, and then down 54%. Out of those, it's basically guns. Recently, we had 4 juveniles that it was right before school. They robbed students that were on the way to school. They did a couple offenses in Watauga and then a couple offenses in Haltom City. They were in a stolen vehicle, and it ended up getting a little chase, and they identified those, and 4 of those have been arrested. In addition to that, 10 other people had been arrested for the robberies. Aggravated assaults are down 25%, and then 12% from 58 to 65. And I'll bring this up now. I've said it a few times, there's a program that we got. It's called communitycrimemap.com. There's actually a link on the police department's website, so you can get on there and you can actually view pretty up-to-date information about crimes in your area. You can actually look at Fort Worth, Bedford, Euless. You can look at everybody. Fort Worth, you can actually read all the reports. Our 4 agencies that we share shared services with, we limit so you can't really read the reports. It's not an exact address, so it's a little bit off, but you can look at heat maps and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of gives you an idea of, like, the aggravated assaults. If you were to turn the heat map on for aggravated assaults, 5000 Denton Highway, the Warren Inn area, is the hot spot for a lot of those activities. And that goes back to the crime-free housing. That's an apartment complex that knows some of the loopholes and is extremely challenging to work with. Officer Perkins is consistently working them and riding them like Seabiscuit, trying to make sure they're staying on track. So hopefully we can get that under control. Burglary of a building is down 22%, down 52% year to year. And these are usually businesses and basically anything that nobody can live in. Residents are down 8% and up 52% year to year. There was 25 house, 17 apartments, and out of that there's been 11 arrests. We have 2 subjects right now that have numerous burglary of habitation warrants, so they've been identified and linked to some of those offenses that you see on the screen. Theft offenses, these are up 9% and up 42%. When Sergeant Barton, which is our criminal investigations, was looking at the thefts have mainly been in retail. So like Dollar General, those types of stores are actually increasing. And kind of goes back on the decision packages that I asked for when we were showing you the numbers about needing more officers. As we increase businesses, increase households, we're going to need more officers to help combat that, because with 6, 7 officers on the street, we're consistently having to play catch up. Most calls are 2 officer calls, so you're already, every call they go to, you're already down 2 officers. So we need to continue to, be mindful of that. Burglary of a motor vehicle is up 7% and up slightly 3%. Vehicle thefts are down 7% and they're up 27%. Recently, actually, the call he was just talking about the dog almost getting a bite was last night. It was a subject that had 4 warrants out of the Auto Theft Task Force and 2 out of Haltom City for vehicle thefts, and he was caught on one of the stolen motorcycles that he'd stolen from Haltom City just a short time before that. Again, on those, it's the Ford F-250s and the Dodge 3/4 ton trucks that are the hot stuff right now. So, and they've actually put out stuff. Auto Theft Task Force has put out notifications and that to emails and media outlets to make everybody aware of that. In addition to these stats, I'm going to add ACO and code as well. So it'll be a little bit longer than usual. Our arrests are up 6% and slightly for year to year. Code enforcement, these are the hot topics that we had the last quarter. The new cases are down to 3279. The abated are 3261, and inspections are 18286. We do have 5 slotted for, 5 positions, but we currently only have 4. We lost 1 to, myself, because now he's a police officer, so it took a little bit to get the other one hired and trained. We're currently in a position to hire another one. We're taking applicants right now. Again, with the lack of rain during the summer, it was not a very challenging year for them to keep on track of grass and abating issues and all that. So that's why the inspections are so high, is because they were actually able to go out and be proactive and deal with complaints. These are the topics. I don't know why it cut off on the bottom. These are the main ones that we get complaints about. So you can actually see that, you know, the parking is, you know, council's made that pretty obvious, and some of the citizens made it, you know, that's the challenge that they want to, or problems that they want to address. So they've been focusing on parking complaints. You can see that was the only category that was slightly up out of all the other ones. Warrant serve, like I explained earlier presentation, is that anytime there's a violation and the citizen or the owner does not want to abate the issue, we have to go through legal means to make sure that we can go on their property and abate the issue, and that's the issuance of a warrant. It's an administrative warrant to get up there and abate the violations. So they went from 86 to 27. Most of those violations are going to be high grass, and that's, they do the administrative warrant and hire a mowing contractor to come out and mow the grass. Liens filed, these are open liens. It's not actual liens. Since they changed the reporting software to MyGov, it only shows the open liens, so we didn't actually see how many liens we filed for the year. This is the animal control. This is, again, we were short. We just recently hired, and we're full staff back at the animal shelter as of this week. With that, you can see that they've actually, with being down, they've still stayed on top and continue to be pretty progressive in some of their stuff. Euthanasias on the feral cats are up. We talked about that before with numerous people. You know, I think you were one of them. You'll know if it's feral and if it's not. If it's a feral cat, it's the one that are trying to eat you, and you know they're feral. If they can be, they're got any inclination of being tame or at some point being a house cat, they'll transition it over and try to rescue that something out, so it'll actually get accustomed back where they can adopt it out if they can. And you can see that with the adoptions are up with cats being tamed, and the euthanasias are extremely down. We've been working with what's that? The people out of Hearst. I forgot her name. Okay, there's a group out of Hearst we've been working with to try to help eliminate some of the cat problems that we're having within the city, because there's a lot of complaints. So far, we've had no complaints about any of their contacts. What they're trying to do is trap, neuter, and release. They're using different tactics to help combat that, but they talk to the neighborhood before they do any of this, because if it's truly an issue that it's a neighborhood issue, we'll do it as an animal control issue and take them and try to get them out or rescued. Calls for service, way up. And again, this is with one short. So, y'all have any questions?
Dr. Trong.
Chief, I saw the several crime that don't look too good. Like most of the time, the citizens so scared when they hear about sexual assault went up. You know, what is the main reason? Because we don't have enough officers on the street, or we don't have enough officers to patrol the area, and what happened? And how many people from under your command short in Haltom City? Like how many more people do need to fill out a gap?
Your first question, sexual assaults that we see are more family oriented, so it's a family issue and a mental issue. It's not. I don't think that's a police related issue. The other crimes, yes, it can be attributed to cops, but you can throw as many cops as you want to a problem, and it's not going to alleviate all crime. Currently we are with the 2 additions that y'all gave me in this current budget. I'm 9 down with that one. I have a sergeant retiring November 19th to go to Tarrant County, and I just lost an officer to Watauga because of their lateral pay transfer.
The reason I ask you a question like this, because on television, you know, the citizen out there may thinking about why you short the officer, why the crime is so high. That's why our council try to get the higher tax to fill out the gap. But I hope citizens out there, try to support us for next budget. See we can make everything safe for citizens. That's my main concern about that. Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Strong. Councilmember Grow.
On the, was it Gov? What is that?
Community crime maps or
Well,
MyGov? MyGov for code.
The software that you use for code.
MyGov.
MyGov. Do we have a good idea of which businesses are grandfathered and which ones are not?
That would be a Glenna question. The information I gave you, the monthly breakdowns, actually show you the different titles that the code deal with and what they've addressed. I don't have anything. I'm sure we can sit down and figure out which ones are grandfathered. Or
because there are a number. My pet peeve is the enclosures of dumpsters.
And recently we've had some challenges with some citizens about how we're addressing issues. As we get complaints or they notice violations, they're dealing with them. But like I said, we have only got 5 positions and 12 square miles, so it's challenging, and to continue to provide that service to the citizens when they complain and be proactive it's difficult, but they're doing the best they can.
Yeah, I'm just curious which ones are grandfathered and which ones are not, because a dumpster that's not enclosed is pretty much low-hanging fruit. And so, because it's there and you can see the dumpster, so obviously the enclosure is not working. And so, I was just curious. But if we can find out, if we have a good way to find out who's grandfather and who's not, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Grow. Are there any other questions or comments from the council for our police chief? Seeing none, excellent presentation. Thank you, sir. Moving right along to our regular agenda, agenda item number 4, the minutes for October 8th, 2018. Were there any questions or comments regarding those? Well, we are in line for a motion. Dr. Strong.
Man, Council, I go ahead and make a move to approve a minutes on regular meeting on October 8, 2018.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion for approval. Is there a second? Councilmember Grove.
That's for a second.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion for approval and a second. If you would, please signify your votes. Motion passes unanimous with council members Nunn and Thompson being absent. Again, council members Nunn and Thompson are absent this evening. Moving right along to agenda item number 5, being ordinance number O-2018-030-15. Ms. Batchelor, welcome.
Evening, Mayor and Council. This is the second reading to consider and/or action regarding the application of Ali Sarafi requesting a conditional use permit for automobile and light truck repair, automobile lube and tune-up, tire and battery sales, and auto laundry and car wash, locally known as 2906 and 2908 Denton Highway. This business is currently operating with the requested uses. The purpose of this request is to bring the property into compliance through the conditional use permit. Their hours of operation are Monday through Friday from 8 to 6 and Saturday 8 to 5. As part of the conditional use permit ordinance, all services will be contained inside the building. There will be no storage or display outside of any products. On September 11th, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended to approve the ordinance by a vote of 6-0, with some additional conditions added to the ordinance. 3 items in Exhibit A were amended and are reflected in the ordinance. Items which were amended read: outside storage of tire piles is prohibited. Tires must be stored inside a fully enclosed building and comply with the specification of the adopted fire codes. Trailers, storage containers, and accessory buildings shall not be considered acceptable storage. The applicant shall have a tire recycling company pick up unusable tires every 2 weeks to ensure unusable tires are disposed of properly. And thirdly, the canopy area at the front of the primary structure may be utilized only for vehicles with trailers having flat tires repaired. The legal notice regarding the public hearing was published in the August 24th Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Notification was mailed to all property owners within 200 feet on August the 29th. 19 property owners were notified. 1 in favor, no objection, none opposed, and 1 returned to sender. If we can look at the screen up here. This is the property requesting the conditional use permit. This is their site plan with approach here on the south side, on the north side, parking along the back. This is the density report that we did, or excuse me, the previous history on the property with their certificates of occupancy. This is a density report from Broadway down to Baker's Lane, with most of it being on Belknap. This is facing east, north, west, and south from the property. This is the exterior pictures that were originally from Google Earth of this is the tire part and this is the detail part. Again, exterior pictures from Google Earth. After the council meeting, we went to meet with the property owner on every Friday, and we went this last Friday and we went today after lunch. So these are progress pictures that he's made. As you can see, he's put his landscaping in at the front. He still has a little bit more to do. We have some tires being gone. Here's a couple of semi-trailers that are used for storage that will be gone. This is the east elevation backing up to residential property, and this was from October the 5th. Again, some more pictures from the 5th with tires. This is one of the semi-trailers. Tires stored inside the trailer. Vegetation along the east fence line. Long shot of the east fence line. This would be the following Friday when we went back out there. Guys are out there working on that east fence line, which requires the 10-foot landscape buffer. Tires out here being processed. Again, the same Friday on the 12th. He started putting his landscaping in. Obviously with the rain, it's kind of a mud pit back there until he gets his asphalt in. Working on getting the landscaping in. The semis are still there. This is from Friday a week ago. Got the sod in with the landscaping, purchased his curb stops for the south property line. Again, the landscaping put in on the east side. Fence line is clear. Tires still being removed. You see them in the racks here. We still have the semi-trailers. This is from today. The racks are empty except for some wheels, so he's making progress on getting the tires removed. Curb stops being installed along that south property line, and again the semi-trailers. So the landscaping is all complete along the residential fence line at the east side of the property. This is the north side that had two big piles of tires that had been removed, and this is a lot less dense than what it was the previous Friday. If you have any questions, I'm available, and the applicant is also here.
Thank you, Ms. Batchelor. Let's see here. Councilmember Weist.
Thank you. Hey, Glenna, the two trailers, are they parked on mud right now?
I believe they're on asphalt, but with all the rain and stuff, it's kind of hard to tell. He's got those listed for sale, so he's trying to get rid of them. They will not remain on the property.
Okay, because looking on the front, it looked like they were close to mud, which, knowing with the tractor, that's going to be hard to get out.
Dolly down, they'll start sinking. Once he gets all the tires out of there, he will be asphalting that whole back lot because that's going to be his parking area.
He's done a lot of work, so.
He has.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Weist. Dr. Trong.
Ms. Batchelor, I heard you say one opponent.
No, it was one in favor, none opposed, and one returned to sender.
None opposed, okay. And how long the trailer will be moved, you know?
That would be a question for the applicant. I know he has them listed for sale.
Yes, because if we approve second reading today and later on you follow up the inspection, make sure the owner will comply with what we require.
Myself or my staff will be going by there weekly on Fridays. We have a standing appointment with him, so we will still be monitoring the property until everything's...
Yes, I drove by and I think the owner really, work a lot, but still not right there, you know. I mean, it's okay if he promised to clean up after we approve tonight, you know. And
he's here if you want to get him up here to talk to you.
Are you, sir? Can you come up here? Hi, Miss Sarif.
And if you would, sir, just state your name for the record.
My name is Ali Sarafi.
You know, reason I check on your property a lot because one of your business is one of the most important on Denton Highway. Our city has been, didn't looking good, but so far we are improving a lot, and I want your business, you will help us to make our city look better.
Thank you.
And how long you will move the trailer away from that area?
I'm putting for sale. When I sell them, they're gonna be out of there.
What if nobody buy it?
No, they will buy them. There's a market for them.
Okay, sir.
No,
I
there's.
hope so. Thank you, sir.
But I'm waiting for somebody really. Yeah. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from the council for the applicant? Ms. Batchelor, I have a question for you. Not saying this would happen, but if the council were to approve this tonight on the second reading, and for whatever reason the applicant didn't complete their, their portion of it, does the council have any remedies?
I believe, Wayne, that because it's an ordinance, that we can use that for enforcement of anything that is not complied with. Is that correct?
Yeah, the remedy, of course, is have code enforcement go out there and seek compliance. But if they don't obtain voluntary compliance, it's a violation of the zoning ordinance, and we can write a citation for it, and there's a $2,000 a day fine that the owner is susceptible to if he doesn't comply.
Okay.
Can I say?
Yes, sir, Dr. Tron.
Ms. Batchelor, can we, I go ahead, make a move to approve for second reading today, but can we wait on a CO until the owner comply everything? And until you certify, because you're director of planning zoning.
He currently has a certificate of occupancy that's valid. He's been there 16 years. We can wait to modify it to include the uses.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yes.
Can we do that?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Grow.
I think Councilman Weeks was ahead of me.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I drove by the Haltom, your facility, and a lot of improvements been made. I really appreciate it. So, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Weist.
I was going to say, I don't think we need to take the steps Dr. Trong is recommending, because I think Ollie's done a great job looking at what Glenn has shown us. He's been a valuable asset to our city for the last 16 years. I think he will continue to comply. He's got a weekly standing meeting until everything's done. I think we just need to push this through and let him continue to do what he's doing. I mean, the rain has hindered everybody from doing what they need to be doing for the last 2 weeks.
Oh, sure. And I wasn't advocating passage or non-passage. I was just asking a question of what would give them the most latitude as far as trying to enforce this, this ordinance if it's passed, whether it's passed or table until the next meeting.
I don't even think it'll even come down to fines or anything. I think he'll continue to do what he needs to do to do what we ask him.
Yeah, they made significant progress over the last, I guess it's been a month now since you came before the council the first
Yes,
time.
he asked for a reschedule from the last council.
Okay. Councilmember Grow.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance Oscar-2018-030-15, case Charlie Uniform -009-18 on the second reading.
Thank you, sir. A motion for approval. Councilmember Weist.
That's for a second.
Thank you, sir. A motion for approval in a second. Are there any other questions or comments from the council? Yes, sir.
Ms. Grove, do we include the condition of CO, like revise new CO after everything comply with our request?
I think we have the tools necessary to make sure Mr. Ali stays within compliance with the ordinance.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think we're good. Ms. Batchelor, you feel comfortable?
Yes, as I said, I won't reissue a new CO with all the allowed uses until he's in compliance.
With our standing weekly meetings, I think we're on the path of success. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. A motion for approval in a second. If you would please signify your votes. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you, council. Moving right along to agenda item number 6, rejection of bids RFB 2018-3011-01. Mr. Van Nieuwenhuis.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd just like to start off by saying if my wheels fly off on this agenda item, that the city attorney step in with a jack and help me out. So, a little background, on October 2nd, we had a bid opening for the utility and street improvements for Joy Lee Street, Swan Street, Lamont Court, and Springview Court. Typically what I've done over the last few years on these street improvement projects is we bid out the sidewalks as an additive alternate. That was our intention to do here. However, the final documents that went out for bidders, while the sidewalks were separated out, it was not clearly indicated that y'all had the right to award the project based on some of the sidewalks, all the sidewalks, which was obviously our intention. But in any event, we had the bid opening, and the low bidder for the project was Stabil and Win at just under $2.5 million. There is enough funding in the CIP budget to fund the entire project with sidewalks if council decides to go that direction. If council wants to pick and choose sidewalks, the cleanest thing to do is to reject all bids, which my past experience with y'all is that you have some apprehension of just flat out putting sidewalks everywhere. But now, having said that, I thought it might be appropriate to give you an aerial view. This is of Earl Street, the first street on the project, and it goes, or Joy Lee Street, and it goes from Larry to Earl. If you see on the lower right-hand corner, Joy Lee Street east of Earl was reconstructed previously, and it did have sidewalks. To give you an overview of this area, our project is from here that way. So this is the section of Joy Lee that was already done with sidewalks. Staff's thinking of why you would want sidewalks on both sides was because we have this park right here. As you see the other streets in the area, I believe this is Eileen, this is Patricia, this is Jean Lane, this is Katrine. They all have sidewalks, and that typically is where council would like sidewalks on the route to a park or a school. The other streets in this, if you look on the side, north is to your left. This is Swan Court, and the two streets are Springview Court and Lamont Court. And staff's recommendation for this would have also been where you see the green to install sidewalks. Where you see the red would be an area where we would not have requested that you install sidewalks. And the reason being for that is there's some rather large trees that there's just no good way to put a sidewalk around it without potentially sacrificing the life of that tree. And a couple of property owners have some extensive landscaping that I'm sure they don't want to part with that's in the public right away. So now, having said that, the cleanest thing to do, as I said earlier, is to reject all bids, or the other option is to bid out the whole project with sidewalks. But knowing that, most likely if you did want to go the entire sidewalk route, it would be staff's recommendation not to put sidewalks on that east side of Swan Street. So I don't know if the city attorney, if my wheels completely flew off yet, but if you'd like to chime in, please do so.
I'm here to answer questions, but I don't have anything to add at this time. It's the council decision on what you want to do.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions from the council for Greg? Dr. Trong?
The reason you reject this bid because we don't have enough money, right?
No, we have enough funding to fund the lowest responsible bidder, which is a contractor we've had good experience with, and to put sidewalks everywhere. The project did come in within budget. So the only reason that I'm suggesting that you reject all bids is because if you're kind of apprehensive on whether you want sidewalks everywhere or not, you're kind of opening up the door for the next guy to, contend, I don't know what the proper term is, but to object to giving the bid to the low bidder. Having said that, what I've shown you previously even if the low bidder with Stabil and Wind gets the project, and we do not do the streets in red, just the sidewalks in green, he is still a low bidder.
My opinion, in Haltom City, you see a lot of streets that don't have sidewalk at all. And why we have to take care of this street, like both sides sidewalk, why don't we do just one side? And just like on Layton, I believe we have just one side, and everything work fine, you know, and we can save some money for some other area. Instead of we take care of this street so good, on the other hand, that street, nobody taking care. I don't feel like it's fair for citizens here, you know, if that's my personal opinion, unless otherwise.
And that's exactly why our intent going into this was to give you all that option, so that if you didn't feel that sidewalks were necessary on one side, or maybe on an entire street, maybe on some of those courts that you didn't feel sidewalks were necessary, you'd have the option to do that, and the bids would have been crystal clear. However, there was a very important statement that was neglected to be added to the bidding documents, and that statement was that the City Council has the option to award this project based on the base bid plus sidewalks at any location they deem appropriate. And that wording wasn't put in. It was supposed to be put in, but we didn't catch it until after the bid opening.
Thank you, Dr. Strong. Councilmember Grow.
So if we want to alter our sidewalk plan that we have right now, we'd have to reject the whole thing and just start over. And
well, yes, the construction plans aren't going to change. The bidding documents will change very slightly. The dates will obviously change, and that very important wording will be added to the bidding documents. If you're wondering what this means in terms of time, it probably means about 2 weeks difference because of where we are. Let's say you were to award the project tonight. We're in mid to late October. It takes about a month and a half to get for the contractor to submit the original bond forms and sign contracts. That puts you in mid-December. I'm not about to authorize ripping up streets right before Christmas.
Right.
So the contractor wouldn't start till early January. So if we went out we rejected all bids tonight and went out back for bids, that time frame moves to maybe a start date of middle of January. So that's why I said if we reject all bids tonight, which again is the cleanest thing to do, you know, we're only delaying construction by probably about 2 weeks.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Weist.
So if we reject all bids tonight, I'm good with that. Have we taken time to talk with the citizens on the streets in regards to the side that we're thinking about not putting the sidewalks on, if they would like a sidewalk on their side or not? Because I know they got beautiful landscaping, big trees and whatnot, but they may still want a sidewalk on their side.
We've tried to make contact since the bid opening, but we have not been successful. Because that's something we wanted to knock on their door and talk to them personally about. So we've made the effort during the day, but we haven't been successful.
Okay.
Are there any other questions or comments from the council for Greg? Okay, thank you, sir. We are in line for a motion. Councilmember Grove.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we reject the all bids for this, and that's going to be, I guess, Romeo Foxtrot Bravo 2018-311-01
Thank
for
you,
the
sir.
street and utility reconstruction.
We have a motion for rejection of the bids. Councilmember Weist.
It's for a second.
Thank you, sir. We motion for approval in a second. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, if you would please signify your votes. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you. Moving right along to number 7, agenda item number 7, resolution number R-2018-014-11.
Much easier agenda item. On September 10th, you all approved the final plat for the IDEA Public Schools Edition. Within that area that the final plat encompasses, and the final plat is the dark heavy line that you see, you'll see this blue area and this red area. Both those areas are easements. The red area is easements that are now dedicated to Encore. The blue area is a utility easement, so that's obviously dedicated to us. As part of the platting process, the applicant went through both the city and through all the franchise utility companies to see if they had issues with abandoning those easements. None of the franchise utility companies, nor did we have any issue with abandoning those easements. However, the wording on the plat stated that those easements were to be abandoned. It was not any more specific than that. The surveyor who drafted up the plat was not comfortable with the wording, and he would have preferred wording that those easements are to be abandoned per this plat, which we see quite often. The surveyor wasn't satisfied that this is clear enough, so he's asked that these easements be abandoned or vacated by separate instrument. That's the cleanest process to do. The other option is to go back through the replatting process, but this is a much more timely process. So again, these easements should have been abandoned, should have been written more clearly during the platting process. They weren't. So this is being brought back to you, and staff is asking that you adopt the resolution which abandons those easements and also authorizes the execution of a quitclaim deed. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr.
So
Van Nieuwenhuis.
a larger scale of those easements are here.
Are there any questions from the council for Mr. Van Nieuwenhuis? Seeing none, excellent presentation. Thank you, sir. We are in line for a motion. Dr. Trump.
Mayor and Council, I go ahead, make a move to approve resolution number R-2018-014-11.
Thank you, sir. A motion for approval. Councilmember Brown.
And that's for a second, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. A motion for approval in a second. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, if you would please signify your votes. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you, council. Moving right along to agenda item number 8, the Sprint Tower lease. Mr. Phelps.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor and Council. The city currently has a tower lease with Sprint for their wireless communication network located on the tower at 3310 Meadow Oaks. Sprint has requested to modify their utilities, and as in any case involving access to our facilities, we require accessibility agreement and engineered approved plans, along with additional compensation to install or modify. They are taking down 3 antennas and putting 3 antennas back, but that's it in a nutshell, but there's a little bit of a weight difference. And so we have required, or staff has suggested that they pay $200 more a month for that equipment, and they have agreed to that. So we're asking that the council recommend the city manager to execute a new lease amendment for this increase in the rent.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions from the council for our Mr. Phelps? Seeing none, thank you, sir. We are in line for a motion. Councilmember Grove.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion that we direct the city manager to complete the Sprint lease agreement for the tower at Meadow Oaks.
Thank you, sir. A motion for approval. Is there a second? Dr. Trung. Oh, you're second? Okay. So we have a motion for approval and a second. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, if you would please signify your votes. Motion passes unanimous. Agenda item number 9, Haltom Hospitality 380 Development Agreements. Okay, with that being said, we need to go into executive session, correct?
Mayor, on items 9 and 10, the one you just named, and then the next one, the resolution involving the EDC, there are some issues that I do need to discuss with the city council in executive session. And you can take this up out here first, but I would recommend we go into executive session before you take a formal vote on it. If you prefer, we can go into executive session now, and we'll cover those issues, and then you can come out here and talk about these.
Well, if the council will indulge me, why don't we go ahead and do the staff reports and go ahead and complete the agenda, and then we'll come back to agenda items number 9 and 10, and we can convene into executive session. Is that okay with everyone? Okay. So, moving right along to the staff reports, agenda item number 11.
Yes, sir. We don't have any staff reports this time.
Thank you, sir. Future agenda items. We have the comprehensive land use plan. Is that something we still want to put on a future agenda for work session, or do we want to hold off on that?
I think we're going to have to hold off because we have the charter review going.
Okay.
And I have a feeling that some of those individuals that are in the charter review might be asked to provide input on the comprehensive land use plan.
Okay. So we'll hold off on that. Resignation of board and committee members. I didn't see any. So we don't have any appointments or reappointments. Any appointments from anyone? Seeing none. Excused absence of council members. We do have 2 council members. None and also Thompson. Both are on vacation, to my understanding.
Make the motion to approve their vacations.
Okay. Approving their vacation? Okay.
Both of them?
Both of them.
Approve their vacations.
Okay. We have a motion to excuse their absences. Do we need a second on that? Yeah. Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion for approval and a second. If you would please signify your votes. I guess Bob is a lone holdout here. He's undecided.
Bob's thinking about it.
Yeah. Motion passes unanimous. Fantastic. Thank you, council. Now we will now convene into executive session pursuant to 551.071 and 072 of the Texas Government Code at 8:16. Okay. Councilmember Weist.
For the item number 9, Haltom Hospitality 380 Development Agreement, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the discussions in the executive session.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Olson.
How do I need to do that, Mr. Olson? I see you smiling at me.
What I would recommend is a motion to authorize us to negotiate the amendments discussed in executive session, and if we're unable to do that, to file a lawsuit to recover or to seek breach of the agreement.
Exactly what he said.
Okay.
You concur with that?
So we have concurrence. Do we have a second? Councilmember Brown.
That's for a second.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion for approval in a second. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, if you would please signify your votes. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you, council. And moving right along to it, let me see, that was agenda item number 9, agenda item number 10. Councilmember Weist.
Matter of item 10, resolution R2018-015-01. Make a motion that we approve this resolution. And also, I think, do we need to talk about the amended one with the reasonable versus market?
Yeah, there is an amended resolution in front of you that provides for the sale of the property for a reasonable value. So, Mayor, that is what the council will be voting on if they approve this motion.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Strong.
I'm second, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, sir. Motion for approval in a second. Councilmember Grow, is that for a second?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, if you would please signify your votes. Motion passes unanimous. With no other items on the agenda, we are adjourned at 8:55.